The Galactic Council Chamber was a place of light and glass, a place where thousands of alien leaders met to decide the fate of star systems. The ceiling was high and filled with moving holograms of distant worlds. Alien languages buzzed in the air, mixing into a constant hum. On this day, the room was louder than usual, and the reason for that noise was humanity. In the center of the chamber, a hologram floated above a round table. It showed a dark, sleek shape, a warship, long and sharp like a blade. The image rotated slowly, so every alien could see it from all sides. Some stared with curiosity, but most stared with amusement. The hologram displayed its name in big glowing letters. Silent Dawn. That is all they send? Asked a thin, insect-like ambassador, his many eyes glittering with mockery. One ship? The Finzendo. Kef warlords laughed loudly, slapping their clawed hands against the table. Pathetic, one said, his voice echoing in the chamber. We build fleets of 1,000 ships each year, and humans send one. The Varan admirals, tall creatures with scaled faces, shook their heads slowly. It is not even a large vessel, one hissed. Barely the size of a patrol craft by Drek standards. Whispers spread across the hall like fire. Every alien race had their own reason to dismiss humanity. Some thought humans were too young in the stars. Others believed they were too poor to match the great empires. To them, this one warship was proof that Earth was weak. In the back of the chamber, a human representative stood quietly, his face calm, his hands behind his back. He did not argue. He did not defend the ship, he simply listened, letting the laughter roll over him like waves. They think this is a joke, whispered a real diplomat, her skin glowing faintly in the dim light. The Drek's dominion will crush them in a single volley. But far away, on the edge of Earth's solar system, the Silent Dawn waited in its dock. Its black hull absorbed all light, making it seem like a hole in space. No bright markings, no visible weapons, just silent, perfect darkness inside. Its crew moved with slow, deliberate precision. They checked controls, tested systems, and spoke in short, calm sentences. The captain stood on the bridge, watching the planet turn below. He was not thinking about the council's laughter. He was thinking about the mission. Every crew member knew the same truth. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. On Alia's channels, the mockery continued. Animated programs showed cartoon humans riding a tiny, wobbling ship into a massive alien fleet and exploding instantly. Markets bet on how many minutes the human ship would last before being destroyed. Some guessed 5 minutes, some guessed 3. No one guessed victory. Even humanity's old allies sent quiet warnings. You cannot fight the Dreks with one ship, they said. This is suicide. But humans only replied with a short message. We're ready. No one knew that for 10 years, deep in the black deserts of Mars, humans had been building something no one had ever seen before. The Silent Dawn was not just a warship. It was a weapon born from silence. Its engines did not roar, they whispered. Its weapons did not flash, they erased. On the day of departure, the ship's dock slowly opened. The Silent Dawn glided out into the black, the stars reflecting faintly on its hull. It moved without the bright blue flames of common drives. Instead, it slid through the void like a shadow. Its signal was faint, almost invisible to standard sensors. In the council chamber, the human representative finally spoke. His voice was calm, almost gentle. One ship is enough, he said. Then he turned and walked away, leaving the laughter behind. Hours later, on the edge of known space, alien listening stations detected the faint movement of the Silent Dawn. At first, the signals flickered as if the ship was vanishing and reappearing. Technicians blamed faulty equipment, but as they tried to adjust their scanners, they noticed something strange. The space around the human ship seemed darker than it should be, as if light itself avoided it. Back in the dockyards of other worlds, alien engineers looked again at the Silent Dawn's design. They could not understand it. No visible weapons, no massive shield generators, no escort ships. It was impossible that such a vessel could survive a real battle, and yet, something about its shape, its presence, left a faint unease. The galaxy did not know it yet, but the silence of that ship was louder than any war cry. And soon, the laughter would stop, replaced by something far heavier: fear, news of the human. Warships spread like fire across the galaxy, in the massive floating cities of the Keth. Merchants leaned over market stalls, laughing as they repeated the story. "One ship," they said, shaking their heads. "Earth sends only one ship." In the shadowy spaceports of the Varin, smugglers and captains traded bets on how quickly it would be destroyed. Some said 5 minutes, others 3. A few joked it would be gone before the battle even began. The alien news networks replayed the same image over and over: the silent dawn. Black as night, gliding from its dock in Earth's orbit, commentators chuckled, their voices dripping with amusement. "Here it is, the pride of humanity," one host said. "A ship so small it could hide in the shadow of a real warship." The Drex Dominion broadcast their own message. Their high warlord appeared on every channel, his armored body gleaming under crimson lights. "This toy will break on our shields," he promised. "The humans will know their place." His words were met with cheers from his people, even in neutral territories. The mockery was the same. In smoky taverns on asteroid colonies, alien miners laughed into their drinks. In the crystal halls of distant empires, nobles whispered to each other, "Why do the humans even bother?" Through it all, Earth stayed silent. No fiery speeches, no angry replies, just quiet, measured preparation. The silent dawn moved through the dark between worlds, its engines barely a whisper inside. The crew spoke only when needed. Every officer and engineer knew their role. They had trained for years without the galaxy noticing. Some alien spies tried to follow the ship. They sent stealth drones and observation satellites to track its path. But one by one, those drones went dark. Their signals vanished without warning. Technicians cursed and replaced them, only to lose the replacements as well. Soon, alien intelligence agencies gave up, convinced that the humans had found some clever jamming trick. But it was not jamming. The silent dawn had already begun testing its systems. Small, quiet pulses of something the galaxy had never seen. Each pulse reached out into the void, touching the enemy's machines, switching them off. Without a single shot fired, back in the Galactic Council, a few worried voices began to speak. "We should not underestimate them," said a Solari scholar, her long fingers tapping the table nervously. "Humans are not known for wasting effort," but her warning was drowned in laughter. The Drex fleet commanders prepared for battle as if swatting away an insect. Massive ships, armed with weapons that could shatter asteroids, gathered at the edge of human space. They formed a wall of steel and firepower, confident they would crush Earth's one ship in moments. Meanwhile, the Silent Dawn's captain stood on the bridge, looking at the tactical map. His crew sat at their stations, silent but focused. The ship's interior lights were dim, as if the vessel itself wanted to blend into the black of space. The captain's voice was calm when he spoke. "Maintain course," he said. "Do not respond to hails." The galaxy kept watching. The alien networks counted down to the expected battle. They displayed timers in bright colors, flashing predictions from experts who spoke confidently about the human defeat. Children in alien schools drew pictures of the Silent Dawn exploding. Merchants sold small toys shaped like the ship, only with cracks painted across its hull. On the streets of human colonies, people did not laugh. They watched quietly, eyes fixed on their screens. They knew something the galaxy didn't. They knew that Earth would never send a ship to die without a plan. They remembered history, how humanity had always been underestimated, and how that mistake had always cost the enemy dearly. One old miner on a Martian outpost summed it up when a reporter asked if he feared for the Silent Dawn. He smiled faintly and said, "They don't understand what one ship can do if it's the right ship." In deep space, the Silent Dawn passed the last human listening station. After that point, no friendly sensors would be watching. The crew switched to full battle readiness. The ship's engines shifted tone, almost inaudible. The hull panels adjusted, absorbing even the faint glimmers of starlight. From this moment on, the galaxy's laughter would no longer matter. Soon, the silent dawn would meet the Drex fleet face to face, and every alien who mocked humanity would see what Earth's one ship truly was. Far beyond the quiet borders of human space, the Drex Dominion was already moving. Their fleets swarmed like steel locusts across the Orion Rift, burning colonies, stripping planets, and leaving only ashes behind. The Drex did not negotiate. They did not take prisoners. They conquered, and they consumed. When their scouts reported that humans had sent only one warship to defend their colonies, the Drex commanders almost laughed themselves out of their armored chairs. "They insult." "U.S.," said Warlord Scarth, his massive claws tapping the table. "We expected resistance, and they send this." His lieutenants chuckled darkly, convinced this campaign would be over within the week. But the Drex did not know the truth. For over a decade, humans had been preparing for this war. Quietly, secretly, away from curious alien eyes. They had no intention of matching the galaxy ship for ship. Humans knew they could never build a fleet larger than the great empires. So they built something else, something no one had ever seen before. While other species built ships like fortresses, thick with armor and weapons, humans had gone in a different direction. The Silent Dawn was not meant to fight like the others. It was not built to trade blows in long grinding battles. It was built to end them before they began. Even as the Drex fleet assembled, over 10,000 warships glimmering in formation, the Silent Dawn moved steadily forward. Its black hull blended into the void. Sensors barely registered its presence. To the Drex, it seemed to crawl toward them. A tiny insect daring to challenge a wall of fire. Back on Earth, the leaders of humanity watched in silence. They had sent no reinforcements, no escorts, and no public statements. All their hopes rested on this one ship. The galaxy thought it was madness. But Earth had played this game before in history, in ages past, when humanity had been outnumbered on its own world. It had survived not through size, but through cunning. The Drex were not the only threat. Other alien powers watched closely, ready to swoop in if Earth's defenses fell. Some had already prepared invasion routes, expecting to carve up human space once the Dominion finished its work. No one wanted to admit it openly, but everyone believed humanity's fall was certain. Yet in the war room of the Silent Dawn, there was no fear. The crew moved with practiced ease. Every system had been checked, every weapon calibrated. The captain walked the length of the bridge, his eyes scanning the displays. "Remember," he said softly, "we strike once, and once is all we'll need." At the same time, far ahead, the Drex fleet completed its final alignment. Massive carriers opened their hangars. Swarms of fighter craft spilling into the black. Capital ships rotated their main guns, the barrels glowing faintly as they charged. To them, this was already over. They saw the human ship as prey walking into their claws. But the Silent Dawn carried something no other ship possessed. Hidden deep within its armored heart was the Star Veil, a weapon not of brute force, but of silence. It did not shatter hulls or burn planets. Instead, it reached into the enemy's heart, finding the pulse of their ships and stopping it. It had taken years of research to create, built from fragments of ancient technology found in the dead ruins of a forgotten race. Humanity had studied it in secret, improved it, and then locked it away until the day they needed it most. That day had come. The first real contact between the two forces was seconds away. The Drex commander gave the order to fire the opening volley. Entire rows of their warships lit up, beams of light crossing the void. But something happened. The beams flickered, some dying before they reached full power, others vanishing entirely. Confusion swept the Drex bridge crews. On the Silent Dawn, the captain stood still, hands clasped behind his back. "Maintain speed," he ordered. The ship's Starveil systems were warming up. invisible waves spreading out from its hull like ripples in dark water. Every Drex vessel touched by those ripples began to lose power, lights dimming, engines coughing. In the council chambers far away, alien observers watched the live feed in disbelief. What's happening to their fleet? Someone demanded. No one had an answer, not yet. For the Drex, it was the first taste of something they had never experienced, helplessness. And for the rest of the galaxy, it was the first hint that the war they thought humans could not win was already being decided. The wall of Drex warships stretched across the void. Row after row of armored giants, their hulls glimmered under the pale light of a distant sun, weapons locked forward, engines burning bright. Each ship was a floating fortress built to fight for weeks without rest. From a distance, the formation looked like an unbroken barrier, a tide of steel that no enemy could cross. In the center of it all sat the Drex flagship, a massive command vessel bristling with guns. Its bridge was filled with the glow of tactical displays, showing one tiny dot moving slowly toward them. The Silent Dawn. The Drex commander leaned forward in his chair, his armored jaw curling into a grin. "One ship," he growled. "One kill." The first volley came without warning. Beams of high-energy light and streaks of plasma cut across the darkness, aimed directly at the human vessel. For a few seconds, the void blazed with deadly fire. But when the light faded, the Silent Dawn was still there, gliding forward, untouched on the Drex flagship. Confusion rippled through the crew. "Did we miss?" a gunner demanded. Sensors confirmed the shots had struck their target and passed through without effect. It was as if the human ship had swallowed the attack's whole. The commander ordered a second volley. This time the Drex fleet poured everything they had into the strike. Missiles streaked through the void, detonating in silent flashes around the Silent Dawn. Railguns hurled projectiles at incredible speed, but again, nothing. The black hull drank in the fire like rain vanishing into the ocean. On the Silent Dawn, the bridge was calm. The captain's voice was steady. "Proceed to engagement point," he said, around him. Crew members worked in silence. Their eyes never left their stations. For them, this was not magic. It was the plan. The ship's energy field, invisible to the eye, bent and scattered incoming attacks before they could touch the armor. The Drex didn't understand it. They had fought countless battles, but never against a ship that refused to obey the rules of war. They expected shields to flare, armor to crack, enemy formations to scatter under heavy fire. Instead, the human vessel simply kept coming. When the Silent Dawn crossed into close range, the captain gave a quiet order: "Activate Starveil." No beam of light, no roar of cannons followed. Instead, the darkness around the ship seemed to grow deeper, spreading outward like ink in water. Drex sensors flickered, then went blind. Ship after ship reported power drops, engines stuttering, lights flickering. Even the massive flagship felt its systems shudder. On one Drex destroyer, alarms screamed as the crew struggled to restart their drives. "It's inside our systems," an engineer shouted, shutting everything down. But it wasn't a virus or a boarding party. It was something worse. The Starveil didn't damage machines. It erased their connection to the universe for a fraction of a second, long enough to make them forget how to function. From the council chambers far across the galaxy, alien observers leaned closer to their screens. The live feed from the battle was strange. Ships drifting, guns silenced, engines cold. And at the center of it all, the human warship moved like a shadow, untouched. The Drex commander roared orders to his fleet, demanding they regroup and ram the enemy if they had to. A handful of ships pushed forward, engines burning bright. But as they closed the distance, their lights blinked out. One by one, they slowed and drifted, powerless. For the crew of the Silent Dawn, this was the moment they had trained for. Targeting data filled their screens, marking which enemy vessels posed the most threat. The captain spoke again. "Remove the command ships." In seconds, 3 Drex flagships went dark, their bridges plunged into cold shadow. their crews staring in disbelief at dead consoles, without their leaders. The rest of the fleet began to scatter. Discipline fractured, panic spreading faster than any weapon to outside observers. The battle was over before it had truly begun. There was no grand exchange of fire, no prolonged duel of fleets. Just one ship sliding through the heart of an enemy armada and leaving only silence behind. Some alien commentators refused to believe what they saw. They claimed it was fake, a trick of editing. But those who served in the Drex fleet knew the truth. They had seen something they couldn't explain, and it terrified them. The Silent Dawn did not celebrate. The captain simply gave one final command: continue forward. And the ship moved deeper into Drex territory, leaving the wreckage of a silent armada behind. The battle was over, but no one could explain how. Across the galaxy, news feeds scrambled to process the fragments of data coming from the Orion Rift. Drex transmissions had gone silent. Council observers had lost their live feed mid-broadcast. And the few scout drones that survived returned with footage that seemed unreal. In the footage, the Silent Dawn drifted through the wreckage of an entire armada. Not a single shot could be seen. No explosions lit the void. There was only stillness. Enemy warships floated powerless, their lights gone, their weapons dead. Some drifted without control into one another, scraping hull against hull in slow motion. On alien worlds, people crowded around public screens. Their laughter from days before had vanished. Now they stared in uneasy silence. Whispers passed from one to another. How did one ship do that? In the marble halls of the Galactic Council, the mood had shifted from mockery to alarm. The same ambassadors who had laughed the loudest now leaned forward in their seats. Studying every still image of the human vessel, the real delegate spoke. First, her glowing skin dim with worry. No one should have this kind of power. The Solari scholar from before tapped the table with her long fingers. I warned you, she said softly. Humans are not to be underestimated. But her voice carried no pride, only caution. Meanwhile, deep in Drex space, panic spread through the survivors. Warlord Scarth's flagship had gone dark for nearly an hour before backup systems flickered to life. By then, his fleet was gone, scattered and humiliated. The once proud Drex warlord could barely hide his rage when speaking to his remaining commanders. It is not a ship, he growled. It is a shadow. Back aboard the Silent Dawn, the bridge crew worked as if nothing extraordinary had happened. No one shouted, no one celebrated. The captain kept his tone even. Status report, one by one. Officers confirmed. No damage, no casualties. The ship was ready to move deeper into enemy territory. The Starvale systems were cycling down after their first large-scale use. Invisible waves still radiated faintly from the hull. Disturbing. Any sensors within range, in their wake, silence stretched across the stars. But the silence was not just the absence of sound, it was the absence of resistance. The Drex did not send another wave to intercept. Smaller patrols turned away before even coming into range. Communications between Drex sectors began to break down. Entire fleets retreated to defensive positions, unsure if the Silent Dawn was coming for them next. Civilian worlds in neutral space began to worry. Merchants whispered about what would happen if humanity turned this weapon on them. Some governments ordered immediate upgrades to their planetary shields. Others reached out quietly to human diplomats, hoping to secure alliances before it was too late. On human colonies, the reaction was different. Crowds gathered in the streets to watch replayed battle footage, not with cheers, but with pride. They knew this victory was not about destroying the enemy, it was about showing the galaxy that Earth could not be pushed aside. A small mining settlement on Titan held its own quiet celebration. The old miner who had once said, "One ship is enough if it's the right ship," watched the news with a slow smile. "Told you," he muttered, before turning back to his work. In the darker corners of the galaxy, criminal syndicates and pirate lords began making new calculations. For years, human shipping lanes had been easy prey. Now, The mere rumor that the Silent Dawn might be patrolling those routes was enough to make them reroute their ships. But the true impact of the battle was felt in the military command rooms of alien empires. Admirals studied the data, rewound the footage, slowed it down frame by frame. Still, they could not find the moment of attack. It was as if the human ship had reached out with an invisible hand and closed the eyes of its enemies. For the first time in centuries, the Drex Dominion sent an encrypted message to the Galactic Council requesting an emergency session, though their official statement avoided admitting defeat. Every leader in the room could see the truth. The Drex had been beaten by a single human warship, and somewhere in the black between stars, the Silent Dawn continued forward, its crew silent, its captain calm. The galaxy might not yet understand the Starveil, but they understood one thing. The laughter was gone, replaced by a cold, heavy silence that stretched across the stars. The galaxy wanted answers, from the richest core worlds to the poorest. Mining outposts, everyone was asking the same question. What was the Silent Dawn? How could one ship walk through a fleet of 10,000 without firing a single visible shot? How could it silence entire armadas without so much as a scratch on its hull? The Galactic Council demanded an explanation, but the humans gave none. Diplomats smiled politely and changed the subject. Military analysts guessed wildly. Some claimed the humans had discovered a new kind of shield. Others believed it was a cloaked fleet hiding behind the one ship. There were even whispers of forbidden weapons from the dark ages of the galaxy. Inside the Silent Dawn, the truth was locked deep within the armored heart of the vessel. Past rows of secure doors and biometric locks lay a single chamber, the Starveil core. It was unlike anything else built in human space. Its walls shimmered faintly, bending the light in strange patterns. And in its center floated a sphere of black metal, smooth and flawless. This sphere was not entirely human in origin. Decades earlier, human explorers had discovered it buried deep beneath the ice of a dead world on the far edge of the Perseus expanse. The planet had no atmosphere, no life, only ruins scattered across its frozen surface. In those ruins, the explorers found technology far older than any known race. The sphere was the largest piece still intact. When it was brought back to Earth, scientists worked in secrecy. They discovered the object emitted controlled pulses of energy unlike any measured before. Not heat, not light, not magnetism. Something stranger. Something that interacted with the very fabric of reality. It could erase energy flow for a fraction of a second, enough to disable anything it touched. The effect was harmless to living beings, but devastating to machines. Entire starships could be shut down as easily as blowing out a candle. Engines, weapons, shields, all silenced in an instant. Humanity had given it a name, Starveil. Over the years, engineers built a ship around it, not to destroy enemies in traditional combat, but to render them helpless. The Silent Dawn was the perfect carrier for this weapon, small enough to evade detection, strong enough to survive return fire, and cloaked in technology designed to hide its true capabilities. Even within the crew, only a handful knew the full truth. Most believed they were operating an advanced suppression field. Few understood that the heart of their ship was alien, older than the Council itself, back in the galaxy's political halls. Suspicion grew. Some Council members feared that if humanity had mastered such a weapon, they could hold every empire hostage. Others quietly admired the move, knowing they would have done the same if they'd had the chance. The Drex Dominion, however, was not content to wonder. The surviving commanders began planning a second confrontation, one that would not allow the Silent Dawn to approach so easily. They spread their fleets wider, forced constant movement, and filled the void with decoys, hoping to trap the human ship. But on the Silent Dawn, the crew had already adapted. The captain knew the Starveil's limits. It could not be used endlessly. It needed time to cool between activations, and it worked best when the enemy was grouped together. The Drex's new tactics would make the next battle more difficult, but not impossible. In the mess hall, a young technician whispered to his friend. "Do you think the rest of the galaxy will figure it out?" His friend shook his head. "Even if they do, they can't build it. They'd need to find one of those spheres. And I think there's only one." What no one on the crew knew was that the Silent Dawn's journey had a deeper purpose than simply defeating the Drex. The captain had been given secret orders from Earth's high command, orders he kept locked in a secure data crystal. Those orders stated that if the Star Veil could be used to win the war, it must also be tested against the largest threat the galaxy had ever seen. A weapon or force that the humans suspected still lurked in the shadows, something connected to the dead world where the sphere had been found. For now, the captain said nothing. His focus was on the mission ahead, pushing deeper into Drex space, forcing them to retreat, and showing the galaxy that humanity's single ship was not a weakness, but the most dangerous weapon the stars had ever seen. And somewhere, far beyond even Drex territory, a faint signal pulsed in reply to the Star Veil's activation, unseen and unheard by anyone on the bridge. As the Silent Dawn moved forward, the signal grew stronger, as if something ancient had noticed and was waking up. The Drex Dominion had never known fear for centuries. They had swept through the galaxy like an unstoppable storm. Their fleets crushed resistance, their armies burned worlds, and their warlords ruled without challenge. But now, after a single battle with the Silent Dawn, they could feel it, the slow, creeping weight of doubt. Warlord Scarth sat in the darkened war room of his rebuilt flagship. The walls vibrated with the hum of the ship's massive engines, around him, holographic. Maps showed the state of his forces. Red markers blinked where fleets had gone silent. Yellow markers flashed where ships had retreated without orders. His claws tapped against the arm of his chair, each strike sharper than the last. "They are only human," he growled. "We will break them." The Drex prepared their final stand. At the Arcanus Rift, a stretch of space filled with violent energy storms and twisting gravity wells. It was a natural barrier, a place where enemy ships could be trapped and destroyed. Scarth ordered every available vessel to gather there. Carriers, destroyers, gunships, and even ancient warhulks pulled from reserve fleets. By the time the last ship arrived, the Drex had assembled over 12,000 warships. The plan was simple. The Silent Dawn would be lured into the rift, surrounded on all sides, and crushed before it could activate its mysterious weapon. Thousands of fighters would swarm it. Boarding pods would latch onto its hull. And once inside, Drex warriors would tear it apart. On the other side of the rift, the Silent Dawn approached. Its black hull reflected no light, its engines barely a whisper. The crew knew they were walking into a trap. The tactical scans made that clear, but the captain's voice was calm as ever. "They think they've learned how to fight us," he said. "Let's show them what they've missed." The first wave of Drex fighters came screaming through the storm clouds of plasma that swirled in the rift. They darted between lightning arcs, their weapons spitting fire. But as they closed in, the Silent Dawn's Star Veil pulsed. The fighters' engines sputtered, their weapons froze, and they spun helplessly into the storm. Vanishing in bursts of light, the Drex commanders on the capital ships watched in disbelief. "Increase range. Do not let them close." Scarth roared. Warships pulled back, forming wider rings around the human vessel, pouring endless streams of fire toward it. Yet still, the Silent Dawn kept moving, weaving through the storms as if it knew the rift's dangerous paths by heart. On the bridge of the Silent Dawn, the captain gave new orders. "Target their command ships, one after another." The Star Veil flared again, invisible but deadly to machines. Within moments, 3 Drex flagships went dark, their lights winking out like dying stars. The effect was worse than any physical damage. Without their leaders, Drex squadrons faltered. Some ships drifted, unsure of their next orders. Others fired wildly into the storm, hitting their own allies. Panic was spreading. Faster this time, deeper this time. In the war room of Scarth's flagship, alarms screamed, "Shields failing!" Shouted one officer, "Main weapons offline." shouted another. Scarth's claws dug into the command table. He could see the silent dawn cutting through the chaos, black and silent, moving straight for him. Desperation gripped the Drex. They launched their final counterattack. Hundreds of ships charged the silent dawn from every angle, trying to block its path. But the human vessel simply vanished from their sensors, slipping between their formations as if it was never there. Then, one by one, the attacking ships fell silent, drifting like broken statues into the rift's gravity wells. When the silent dawn emerged from the heart of the storm, only fragments of the Drex fleet remained. The rest had been silenced, disabled, or lost forever to the rift's hungry pull. Scarth's flagship floated in the center of the wreckage. Powerless, the human vessel approached slowly, its shadow falling across the Drex bridge. Through the viewing screen, Scarth could see the human captain, standing calmly, hands behind his back. There were no threats, no speeches, only a single transmission sent directly to the Drex warlord. It contained 2 words: "It's over." Moments later, the silent dawn turned and left the rift, leaving the broken remains of the greatest fleet the Drex Dominion had ever assembled. The battle was done, and so was the war, across the galaxy. News of the Drex defeat spread like wildfire. The council chambers fell silent as the reports came. No one laughed now, no one doubted now. The galaxy understood that humanity's one ship had shattered an empire. And in the shadows beyond the edge of known space, the faint signal that had been echoing since the Starveil's first use pulsed again, stronger than before, as if something ancient had been waiting for this moment. The silent dawn did not rush home. It moved through the black, silent and steady, like a shadow gliding between stars. Behind it, the wreckage of the Drex Dominion's grand fleet drifted quietly in the Arcanus Rift. The galaxy was still trying to understand what had happened, and the silence it left behind was almost heavier than the war itself. On Earth, people gathered in streets, parks and spaceports to watch the news feeds. The same ship that had been mocked for weeks was now hailed as the protector of humanity. Children pointed at its image with wide eyes. Elders shook their heads, still in disbelief. No celebrations were ordered, but everywhere you looked, there was pride in the Galactic Council. The atmosphere had changed completely. Delegates no longer spoke of humans as a small, irrelevant race. Now they spoke of them in cautious, measured tones. Some suggested new treaties. Others whispered about alliances. And a few, the wisest among them, suggested it would be better to never stand against Earth at all. The Drex Dominion was broken. Their warlords fought among themselves, blaming one another for the defeat. Fleets that had once terrorized entire sectors now scattered, avoiding human-controlled space entirely. Worlds that had been under Drex rule for decades began declaring independence. Some of them even reached out to Earth for protection. But the humans did not gloat on the silent dawn. The crew worked in the same quiet way they always had. Systems were checked, reports filed, supplies monitored. The captain did not give long speeches or bask in praise. His focus was on the orders still locked inside that secure data crystal. Orders that spoke of something greater than the Drex, something still out there in the dark. Only a few in high command knew the truth. The war against the Drex had not been the Silent Dawn's final mission. It had been a test. A way to see if the Starveil could function in large-scale combat without breaking. It had passed perfectly, but with every activation of the Starveil, that faint signal out beyond the galaxy had grown stronger. It pulsed again now, unnoticed by most, but not by the ship's deep space sensors. Each pulse carried a strange pattern, almost like a heartbeat, and each time, it came from the same coordinates. The frozen dead world where the sphere had first been found. In a quiet meeting on the bridge, the captain spoke to his senior officers. The council will want us to parade through their worlds, show them the ship, let them feel safe, he said. But our real mission is not over. He tapped the coordinates onto the display. The screen showed the barren world, shrouded in ice and shadow. Whatever this signal is, the captain continued, it's old. Older than the Council, older than the Drex, maybe older than life in this galaxy. The officers exchanged glances. None of them spoke, but they all understood. The Star Veil was not human technology. And if something had built it once, something could build it again. As the Silent Dawn approached the Sol system, a small fleet of human escort ships met them, but only as a symbol. They were not needed for defense. Their arrival was followed by a single message from Earth's High Command. Short and simple: return, resupply, and prepare for extended deep space deployment. Back on alien worlds, rumors grew faster than the truth. Some claimed the humans had a fleet of Silent Dawns hidden in deep space. Others whispered that the Star Veil could destroy planets. A few conspiracies even claimed the humans had made a deal with some ancient power for the first time in memory. Piracy dropped across the outer rim. Trade routes shifted to pass near human-controlled systems. Not to avoid them, but to stay close. Merchants felt safer knowing the Silent Dawn was somewhere out there. But in the hearts of many alien leaders, safety was not what they felt. It was unease. Because they had seen what humanity could do with just one ship, and they knew that if Earth ever decided to fight again, no one could stop them. When the Silent Dawn finally entered Earth orbit, there were no fireworks, no cheering crowds. The crew disembarked quietly, moving like soldiers who knew their job was not done. The captain stayed behind on the bridge for a moment longer, looking out at the curve of the planet below. He thought about the laughter that had greeted their launch, about the silence that had followed their first victory, and about the signal that was still waiting in the dark. Somewhere out there, beyond the edges of every star chart, something had heard them. Something was listening, and in the cold quiet of space, as the Silent Dawn powered down for the first time in months, the stars seemed to flicker, not from distance, but as if something vast had just moved behind them. The war with the Drex was over, but the real war might not have even begun.